Good morning, mushrooms, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, brothers, sisters, mothers, misters, and all my cousins out there around the world. It's time to plug in and get this train a chuggin'. The US is looking at banning TikTok, Pompeo says. To ban something, to prohibit something, means to officially say that it is not possible. It is prohibited. And so they're looking at it. You could also say they're looking into it. That would mean that they are researching it, they're investigating it. In this case, they're not doing any research, they're just looking at it. Much like if you're looking at something, you're like, TikTok, what do I think about that? And so really they're just looking at it and considering it. They're not doing any formal investigation. Just thinking about it. TikTok schmicktock. Moving on to Hong Kong, Hong Kong schools were told to remove books that violate the new law. If you violate a law, or if you are in violation of the law, you are going against it, you are breaking it, you are outside of it. Some other advanced vocabulary, you could say that you are flouting the law. Much like a person who plays a flute is a flautist. I don't know the etymology of that one actually, but to flout the law, to violate the law, to break the law. And so just simple little co-locations, and let's move on to some more IT news. Facebook and others halt user data sharing with the Hong Kong authorities for now. So apparently they were sharing everyone's information with the authorities. However, the authorities now are a little bit different. You could say that they've almost traded teams. To halt means to stop. If I'm not mistaken, comes from German. Yeah, it's what the soldiers say when they point the rifle at you as you're trying to enter the secret forbidden area 51. Halt. Hands in the air. Some more words that go with laws, not just violating laws, but they are passing laws. Because laws need to be voted upon, and so it needs to pass through the different bodies of government, and so to pass it, it is now official. Who knows when it will go into effect? However, the law, which has been passed, is going to put sanctions on someone, China, I guess. And I'm not familiar with this person. I think it was the spy that was kind of executed by them. I'm not really too sure. Moving on, some good, I've just been waiting for this one here. Good visual vocabulary. If something to Budge, he hasn't budged on wearing a mask. To Budge, it's like if you have something big and heavy that you need to move and you're pushing against it and you're like, it won't move. It won't even budge. And so budge is just a tiny little movement, not even a millimeter. And so in this case, obviously, we're not talking about moving him as a physical human being. Ideologically, his stance, his position, he hasn't budged even a bit. He's not willing to move. He won't even waver like something that would wiggle or waver in the wind. Yeah, and that epitomizes his administration's bungled response. If something epitomizes something else, if it is the epitome of it is the perfect symbol of it. It symbolizes it. It embodies it. It is the perfect representation of all that it entails. His bungled response, and if you bungle something or something, in this case it's being used as an adjective to describe the response, it means that the response was done in a clumsy and incompetent fashion, or a clumsy and incompetent manner. There's been no coherent policy. They're kind of running this way and that way like chickens with their heads cut off, often contradicting themselves. And it's obviously been quite unsuccessful in general because cases are skyrocketing, people are dying, blah, 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 blah. Really screwed it up. They've bungled it. And that his not wearing a mask is the perfect embodiment. It is the perfect example or symbol of this messed up, screwed up, erroneous response. 3 good pieces of vocabulary though. To budge, it won't even budge. But yes, speaking of that bungled response and its results, the US is in free fall. If you are in free fall, it means literally you are falling freely through the air. There's no rope, there's no parachute, there's nothing to control your descent. You are in an uncontrolled descent. Often then when you're free falling, unless you know what you're doing, you're spiraling and tumbling about through the air, flailing your arms and legs, trying to gain some sort of semblance of control, but the chances are you're just going to eventually go splat. Not much I can do about it, to be honest. Is stepping up its dispute with Japan, and tensions keep rising, things are getting hot, yeah, but to step it up, just like with stairs, they're making an incremental increase. They're increasing, we could just say, but not shooting up, skyrocketing, just a little step it up, consistently, steadily increasing. Let's hope they can all just calm down over these uninhabited islands. I know that they might be strategic, but guys, enough with the hostility. Can't we all just be friends? All right. Obama, a strategist, explains why Trump's tactics aren't working. Well, I'll tell you why. Because technically, in my humble opinion, technically they're not even tactics. They're just a bunch of actions. Well, tactics refers to the strategic moving of troops and equipment so as to engage in battle in a successful fashion. And so yes, tactics imply strategic actions designed to achieve a clear and specific end. Now, there's absolutely no strategy behind what he's doing. He's just kind of like the person in freefall, flailing about, trying to do this, that, and spouting all sorts of unpleasantries, saying not nice things. Mistakenly cropped Trump out of a photo featuring Jeffrey Epstein. Epstein, as you know, recently died or killed himself, committed suicide in prison, involved in the underage sex trafficking ring scandal, and he was also a New York socialite, so naturally, from some time ago, there are pictures of him with Donald Trump being another New York socialite of sorts. The funny thing is, in the picture that they posted, I saw the picture, yes, there's Epstein and the lady who was just arrested, Ghislaine Maxwell, and then there's Melania Trump, but then they just cropped or cut the picture, leaving out Donald Trump. By still leaving in Melania, I think it would naturally draw people's attention. So they say they mistakenly did it, but it's almost as if it were done on purpose. However, mistakenly, such a good adverb. From mistake, mistook, mistaken. From the past participle, I was mistaken about it, or you did something mistakenly. You did it by accident, accidentally, not on purpose. You didn't intend to do it. You didn't do it intentionally. It was unintentional. All right, enough of that. Let's intentionally close that one off and move on to Brazil. Jair Bolsonaro. He tells his fans that he had a lung screening. This is just a specific test when medical professionals perform screenings. They're usually looking for some sort of particular illness, abnormality, and or infection. And considering a lung screening and his complete refusal to wear masks or do anything to prevent the spread of COVID-19 in his country, yeah, it's probably wise that he does get a medical checkup, or that he did get a medical checkup. They didn't say if they found anything in the screening though, and so who knows? It's a medical test looking for something in particular. We had it yesterday or the day on Friday to topple, to pull down a statue. Technically, that's how it's usually used, from pulling down statues after the US invaded and toppled the government. But it's usually done by pulling things down with ropes or chains, but it technically comes from becoming unbalanced. And so if you're pulling on something, eventually it is going to reach that tipping point in which it falls. And so it's about destabilizing something. And so that's why we can also use it for toppling governments, toppling regimes, often done by the citizens themselves. They destabilize it and it's not able to stand under its own weight and eventually falls. Topple. Now, sadly here, they toppled a statue of Frederick Douglass, a freed slave and avid abolitionist and speaker and author, etc. And so I believe this is some sort of pushback against the citizens toppling other statues of Confederate generals and so on. But yes, on the anniversary of his famous speech, really sad and disappointing. Racists. And speaking of racism, the White House refuses to, remember we refused to do something, but refuses to denounce the Confederate flag. To denounce something is to publicly criticize something and say that it is evil and wrong. And so, yes, much like most average people will denounce racism, will denounce sexism, teachers often denounce plagiarism. It is evil and wrong. And he refuses, or they, I should say, refuse to denounce the Confederate flag because, well, that is the last little shred of anything that he has that ties him to any sort of voting base. Thankfully, the people who support that and what it symbolizes are in the minority. And so, yes, thinking about that, he refuses to denounce it, and he actually embraces the symbols of slavery. And his embrace of those symbols, the Confederate flag, etc., that will backfire. And if something backfires, much like if you have a gun and you're trying to fire and shoot it that way, if it backfires, it's going to shoot you in the face. So it's having the reverse effect as intended, and often disastrous. Much like, yes, if the gun backfires and shoots you in the face, that's going to be pretty disastrous for you. To embrace something, and embrace, to embrace, literally means to hug, but often here in the news we see it used with ideas and ideologies, but it could even be habits and practices and so on. To embrace the habit of exercising daily and brushing your teeth at least once a week, right? Right. Good. Yeah. The UK must confront their colonial past. You can't just ignore it and pretend it didn't happen. You have to confront it. You have to step up, face up to it, and accept the fact that it did happen and address it, to deal with it, yeah? You can't just kind of sweep it under the rug and pretend it never happened. You can't just look the other way or turn a blind eye to it. It needs to be dealt with. Okay, interesting. And I hadn't really considered it, but yes, there are everyday words out there that have racist connotations. Cheered 5 bits, Samuel. Thanks for coming in with the 5 bits. I appreciate it. I do believe that's the first time I have ever been cheered. Super cool. Thank you very much. And I hope things are going well. You're staying safe over there out in your taco truck. Everyday words that have racist connotations. A connotation, when I talk about the words and their flavor, that's what we're talking about. If it's the meaning in addition to the actual meaning of the word. And so often you'll say something has, yeah, okay, it means this, but it has a negative connotation. Like if you say the word skinny. Yeah, skinny, okay, it means that you are thin, you are slim, you are slender, but especially with the way that it's said, it could also mean like too thin, or yeah, in an unhealthy fashion, like, oh, he's skinny. Sometimes it can have a slightly negative connotation. Now, I had not considered it before. Now, there's some terms that are obviously and overtly racist, but some of them have these more hidden connotations. Thinking about real estate, you hear people talk about the master bedroom. Never really had considered that before. I just figured because that's where the parents sleep and they're the masters of the household. But the master bedroom really does go back to slavery, and that's where the master or the owners of the slaves slept. And so, wow, I can't believe I hadn't really thought of that or noticed it before. But yes, there are everyday words pervasive throughout the English language that do have underlying racist connotations that are not always immediately obvious. Yeah, read it, learn it, know it, live it, love it. No, don't love it, don't use it, but learn it and know it so that way you don't live it and use it. Yeah, all right. I'm digging into a hole. Moving on. Tiny, of course, means very, very, very small, minute, minuscule, opposite being huge, enormous, mammoth, gigantic. And bugs are insects. And that's why we say that somebody is bugging you. They are annoying you. It's much like bugs that are biting you. You don't like it. It is annoying. If something bugs you, that means the people are annoying you like insects. Yeah. And slayer. Yesterday we had to slay as well. Or no, we had slain. Somebody had been slain. Yes, to slay. Like, well, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, she killed vampires, right? Well, to slay means to kill. Slay, slayed, slain, S-L-A-I-N, Now, there's another secondary past tense form of to slay, and that is slew, S-L-E-W, but forget about it, don't use it, don't worry about it. Just use slayed, stick with the regular-ishness of the verb, make it easier for yourself. Okay, enough of that. Nice word. Terrible meaning. When I say nice word, I'm talking about that visual vocabulary, or in this case, auditory vocabulary. To slur, or a slur. Most common usage is about the way people talk when they're drunk. And it's the way that the words just kind of start blending together and you can't really understand what they're talking. All right, and so that's slurred speech, yeah, where the words become all interconnected. That's why actually many non-native English speakers say that Americans sound like they're slurring, because the words wanna, gonna, and so on start getting pushed together, smooshed together. Technically, that's called elision, and that's a different linguistic term, which you'll see more videos about coming up in the near future. Connected speech. However, in this case, a racist slur. It's a derogatory, pejorative, negative comment, usually used with racism, intended to criticize and humiliate somebody. And so this guy had a nickname and he thought it meant strong stallion, but actually the people were criticizing, making fun of, and trying to humiliate him. People are jerks. Poor guy. And he's like a famous cricketer or cricketeer. I'm not really sure. I don't really follow cricket. But yeah. Moving on. Funny story here, because he's a cheeky guy and loves to make fun of people who bet against him. And so these shorts and these shorts are Elon Musk's answer to investors who shorted his stock. And to short somebody or to short a stock basically is you're betting against its success. You borrow stock from a broker and then you sell it expecting it to go down in value, and then you rebuy it for a cheaper price and then give it back to them. And so you're betting against it. Well, they came out and posted quarterly profits, I think maybe for the first time ever, which then caused the stock price to go up, screwing over the investors who shorted his stock. And so then he started selling these shorts to mock them who sold or shorted his stock, to mock the stock shorters with shorts. All right. Either way, it's just kind of funny. He loves thumbing his nose at people who try and defy him or bet against him. Yeah, he's a polarizing individual. There's things I don't like about him, but there's things I do like about him. He's a funny guy, and at least he's interesting to watch. Moving on. To reminisce is to think about the past, especially in a positive way. It's sort of like that feeling of nostalgia, whereas nostalgia is also mixed with a little bit of sadness because it's about times that are done and gone. You're thinking back with those warm sort of memories, but you're also a little sad because, well, it's over and it's finished. And so to reminisce, like when you get together with your old friends from high school and you talk about the good old days and all the crazy stuff you used to do, yeah, it's reminiscing. No harm in that. Aside from being just a cool dude, he's also pretty logical. He's advocating for masks, and a famous citizen of Texas, and even a teacher at one of the universities now. He's advocating for, and that's showing your voicing your public support for something. Just like if you, well, in some countries, the word for lawyer is advokat, the person who advocates, supports you in court. So we advocate for a cause, typically, to speak up in support of it. Thank you, Matthew McConaughey. Ooh, that's kind of fun. All right, for English Otherwise, that was breaking down the news for Tuesday, the 7th day of the 7th month. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. Samuel from the Taco Truck, Nihan Zdenyek, and all the other passive watchers out there, do jump in the comments, ask a question. I'm here to serve. I'm here to help you. Yeah, if you do like what you see, click the like, subscribe, pass us along to a friend, help make the world a better place for all of us. And so, that's it. If I don't see you sooner, which I might, but if I don't see you sooner, of course, 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. Much love and have a great day. Bye-bye. Stop the stream.